everyone, J.H. Champagne here, back from my home office with some more writing tips today. Guess I got a haircut. It's fine. It's okay. Calm down. What I wanted to talk to you today is about writing out of order and how that can be a really useful technique when, especially in fiction writing, when you're struggling with what comes next, what should come next in a story, what should I be working on, and you kind of get stuck, but you've got ideas for later in the story and you're just trying to figure out how to get there. It's a really common struggle, and it's absolutely okay to write out of order. I know for myself, I tend to think of the parts of my novels as scenes in a movie. You know, if it was actually on screen or in a play, what would the scenes be? Everything from the huge plot twist to the moments in a coffee shop when you're really just getting to know these characters. They're all important, and it's okay to break them up. And the best part is you can completely write them out of order and your reader is never going to know. It will all come together at the end, and it's totally okay to write all over the place. And then when you go back in your large edits to really kind of make sure, yes, does it flow? Does it make sense when you're going over it with one brush? But when you're first writing, absolutely write it out of order. In my first novel, An Unusual Path, one of the first parts of the story that I wrote was actually the very last chapter. It's actually the moment when the term An Unusual Path got used and where I got the title from. It's something that one of the characters says describing some of the other characters in the book. They say that they took an unusual path to get to the place that they are in their lives and how they got there in the whole story. But again, even though it is the end of the book, it was one of the first parts that I wrote, and I actually cannot recommend enough writing the ending of your stories early. Yes, it may change. You're going to go back, you're going to edit it, things are going to happen, and that's okay. But to have a place to start at the beginning keeps your story's trajectory in line, so to say, so that when things are happening, you know where you're going. Does this make sense in the story that I'm trying to tell? Now, there may be times when you've got some huge plot twist that just came to you, and that may change the ending, and sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it actually ends up being an even better story than what you first thought of, and that's fantastic. There's also times when, wouldn't it be awesome to kill off this character, have these two people get together, have something else crazy happen, and then you look at the ending and kind of, this is the story I was hoping to tell, and it doesn't work. And just because it's a fun idea doesn't mean it's a great idea, and having that ending already written helps with, again, making sure you're telling the story you want to be telling. The same technique and idea of writing out of order can also work in nonfiction work. So I've got two friends of mine now. Both of them are working on their first books, and so follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at JH Champagne, because when they're published, I will plug the mess out of them because they're going to be fantastic. One is discussing her struggles with mental illness over the years, from anxiety to postpartum depression to some other things, and removing the stigma from that, which I think is absolutely important work that's happening right now. And the other is somebody who is chronicling struggles with PTSD and her husband coming home injured from Afghanistan years ago, and how over the years what that's done to their family. And again, both of those are incredibly important works, and both of them are kind of autobiographical nonfiction works. And the same idea of writing out of order can apply to that. So one of them was chatting with me on the phone one day, and they mentioned to me that they were having a hard time as they were writing because the advice that had been given to them was tell your story, which seems like very simple, straightforward advice, but it was kind of causing a little bit of a struggle, because even though to tell her story would mean writing what happened 2, 3, 4 years ago, what's really affecting them is what's happening right now. And she was having a hard time dealing with right now while trying to write the story of 3, 4 years ago. And I told her, I said, well, while I understand why that advice would be given to her, write what's happening right now. Write that down. Absorb it, catch it, capture it, whatever you want to call it, right now, because in doing that, it will help bring back all of those things from 3, 4 years ago. And in writing 3, 4 years ago is going to remind her of something that happened a year later. And it's okay to write all of that stuff down out of order. And the same way as fiction and nonfiction Both of them work in the same way where you can come back later and piece those things together. I do that myself in, again, my own novels. I have all of these different files on my computer of the different scenes, and I will print them all out individually and then spread them out on the dining room table and place them together. It really is the best way for me to put my story together. I have to do it tangibly. Some people can do it all on the computer and that works for them. I need something a little more tactile. It's just the way I'm a much more visual person. And nonfiction work can go the same way. So, regardless of what you're doing, write out of order. It's okay to write out of order. Some people are really afraid of that. It's a really helpful tip to get all of the things out there when you're inspired by them. You may not be inspired by what's next right now in your story. Write what's on your mind, on your heart right now. And that will make those parts of the story better, because that part that you're struggling on right now, the what's next in your story, the day is going to come when you're going to be really inspired by that. And that's going to be the day to capture that. And if that's not today, today is not the day to write that part. So I hope that that's been helpful, and stay tuned for more videos. Again, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all of that at JH Champagne, and I will see you all very soon. Have a great weekend.